Hey yeah! And did you know that Mario Odyssey had 76 unused captures? So with a number that big, you might be wondering, how have I never heard of this? This seems like a massive leak. Well, there isn't too much left of each of these captures. Here, let me tell you how they were found. Every capture in the game shows up in a file that looks like this. Every capture has an entry on this table labeled true or false. If a capture is labeled as false, it shows up in the capture list that you can check by pressing minus. However, if a capture is labeled true, it doesn't show up in the list at all. And this file is massive. To be exact, there are 76 entries on this list that never made it into the game. So even though the only thing left of these captures is the name, I'm going to be speculating on what they could have been. Alright, let's get into it. Well, getting into the list, our very first entry is Baku Baku. Now, I wasn't sure of this at first, but a very quick Google search revealed that this is the Japanese name for the Cheap Chomp, an enemy that shows up in several previous Mario games. Now, having a Cheap Chomp in Odyssey would actually be really cool. I can't think of too many places in the game that it would have been used, but I definitely would have loved to see this as another capture. However, you can't really complain since we did get the Gushin. I'm not going to spend too long on each capture so that this video isn't over an hour long. However, our next capture is the bee. Seems pretty self-explanatory. My first thought was related to the bees from Galaxy, but it might not even be that specific. Just a bee. Mayhaps they would have controlled like Bee Mario from Galaxy. That's all I can really go off of though. Up next is the Big Bros, and based on how Fire Bros and Hammer Bros are named, I'm guessing that this is the Sledge Bro. Now, that's an interesting idea. I think I can see why this one would have been cut, because it's kinda similar to the other Hammer Bro type things, and I don't think it would be super fun to control, but maybe they had a cool gimmick for it and just never got it through. Then onto Big Statue Possessed. This reminded me of the statues you can capture in Bowser's Kingdom. However, the possessed part could mean it was related to ghosts in some way, because this game usually refers to captures as hacks, not possession. Bound Ball. My best guess for this was that it was an early testing version of the Shiveria Race capture, which I think is a pretty safe bet. And the Boss Tail Child is up next. That is a weird name. My best guess is that it's related to the Mecha Wiggler in Wooded Kingdom. However, it could have been a cut boss as well. There really isn't a lot to go off for this one. Up next is a Chameleon. A Chameleon capture could be really cool. I'm not sure what uses they could have gotten out of it, but if they put some good creativity into that, it would have been super cool. City Man Flying is up next. I'm guessing this was related to the flying taxi cars you can find in Metro and other kingdoms. It's kind of a long shot. I don't know here. Alright, our next one. Even if this capture would have been the lamest thing ever, I absolutely love the name Corn Boy. I had to guess that this is related to the scarecrows that you throw your hat on to unlock areas. I'll just take it because I really like the name Corn Boy. Crawler. Another pretty vague one. It could be related to spiders, or the Mecha Wigglers again. Anything that crawls, really. There really isn't enough to go off of here. Alright, now we're on to a pretty interesting one. Dinosaur. Now when I saw that, my very first guess was, oh, it's an early form of the T-Rex. That's pretty self-explanatory. However, the next entry is Dinosaur Big, which could imply, I think, 3 separate things. 1, it was an early version of the T-Rex and they had 2 different sizes for it. 2, it could have been a different kind of dinosaur. This is kind of hinted at by the Odyssey art book, where the concept art for Cascade Kingdom had several different types of dinosaurs walking around. And what else could follow up dinosaurs other than Dumpling Man? I can't think of a spot in this game that this would have been used. Bowser's Kingdom maybe? Maybe a spot in Metro? I don't know. I just want dumplings now. Electric Man. This is an interesting one. My best guess is it would have been related to spark pylons, because that mostly makes sense. If it was related to spark pylons, I'm not sure how it would work, but maybe a capture that could reroute where spark pylons sent you could be super interesting. Now, Flutter is a very interesting addition. Flutter has appeared in several previous Mario games, and they're the flying type of a Wiggler. However, regular Wigglers don't show up in Odyssey, so maybe this could have been a tropical form of the Flutter. It's hard to say, but this could have been super interesting. Now, Frog Big. Frog Big is interesting. I don't have that much to say for it. I'm guessing it was just a bigger form of the frog capture. Why it was cut isn't sure, but maybe it just wasn't necessary. Forest Man Seed is up next, and I'm guessing this is related to the Wooded Kingdom guy that you throw your hat on to make him throw out a seed, except I'm guessing that this would have been an earlier form of that, where you capture them to get them to spit out a seed. Up next is Ghost Player, which could be, I think, two different ideas. One, time trial races, like Mario Galaxy Shadow races and the Koopa freerunning races, or something that I think would be a little cooler, honestly, is like a time trial system. It gives you a ghost of what you did before, and you can follow that. Or maybe the ghost player could have been an enemy. There's so many different things it could be with a name like that. Up next is a slightly less interesting one. Hover Double Excel. Could be a few things. It sounds like it's probably a test for something, not a capture that was meant to be finished. Tough to say. And then Ice Climber? I assume it was an enemy that climbed ice, but maybe it was the NES game? Throw your hat on the cartridge? Launcher Coin Cap. Few ideas here. Could be related to those little accelerator things that make Cappy go further. It could be related to the coin coffers, or it could just be a test. It probably wasn't super exciting, whatever it was. Up next is Magnet D. Usually when they label stuff like this, there's a Magnet A through C as well, but those probably got lost somewhere along the way. It could be a few things. I really don't have any great ideas for this one. However, just the idea of a magnet capture brings forth a bunch of cool ideas. Now, Maki Maki is weird. Based on a little bit of research, they seem to be the file name of a Yoshi Crafted World enemy, which is very odd, because Yoshi's Crafted World didn't come out until after Odyssey. Were they considering putting them in this game first, and then they were going to reappear in Yoshi's Crafted World? It's a really bizarre one, and I don't know what it could have been. However, if anybody wants to dig through the Yoshi's Crafted World files to look for more on this one, that'd be totally worth it. However, following up that weird one is Noko Noko. This one is super cool. This is a Koopa Troopa, and I always thought Odyssey should have a Koopa capture. I get that Koopa freerunning is a thing, but I just think there's so much potential with a Koopa capture that works like the Koopa shells in 3D World, and it looks like they were working on that. Now this capture actually shows up twice in the list, and this is the later one. However, it shows up earlier, mixed in with the Mushroom Kingdom captures. So I'm guessing if this were to be finished, it would have been included as a capture in Mushroom Kingdom. Up next is the Penguin. Now, penguins do show up in Odyssey, in Snow Kingdom. I'm guessing that they would have been a really cool thing to capture though. I'm imagining sliding down different hills. It sounds like it could be a lot of fun, maybe similar to Koopa actually, just more momentum based. However, they could also be too similar to Mario's roll ability now that I think about it, so unsure. Penguin could be cool though. Pole jump is pretty simple. I'm guessing it's related to the poles you can capture and flick yourself, probably an earlier version of that. Party popper. There isn't too much to go off of here. Up next is Ribbon Beamer, and I'm guessing this was related to the party popper. It's hard to say, but they sound like they'd be similar to one another. Now, the Rigid Body Box. It was a cube. It was a box. It probably could move a bit. Or maybe it couldn't. It was a cube, probably just used for testing. Now Runner is up next, and that seems odd. My first thought is, oh, Runner, Koopa free running. However, it could just be anything that goes fast. Get Sonic in here, I don't know. Sand Shark. I don't think there's a lot to go off of here, however you can pretty easily imagine how this would fit into Sand Kingdom. If I had to compare it to other things, I thought of Squizzard from Galaxy, and the Sand Seals from Breath of the Wild. The Sand Seals could be an interesting comparison, as they could have been related to the Jaxi in some way, or an earlier version of the Jaxi. Alright, I know this is a very long list, however, we're onto the Scarecrow. I imagine that this is related to the hat racks you throw things on. I know I said that earlier for Corn Boy, however, this one is literally called Scarecrow, so I don't know what else it could have been. Up next is Skater, and even though it's not spelled the same way, this might be related to the Skeeter enemy. It could be anything though, it might be an ice enemy instead of a water one. This was just the best comparison I could get. Up next is Snowlin, and I imagine that Snowlin is a baby Chivarian. It makes sense. It's a catchy name. I don't know why you'd be able to capture a child unless we were throwing them off a cliff. So coming off of babies is Space Shuttle. Based on some concept art, they experimented with a lot of different designs for the Odyssey ship. Maybe Space Shuttle could have been related to the Odyssey? I actually just came up with this. This is probably a better idea. It was an early version of the rocket captures you can do to go to sub-areas. Up next is Spider Hang. I thought of the spider enemies from Galaxy first, but guessing on how they might work, I'm guessing you might be able to swing back and forth, build up momentum, and fling yourself like the forks. Could have been pretty fun, honestly. Don't see a kingdom where they would have fit in very well, though. Stake is up next. Now there are stakes in Odyssey, however I imagine that these stakes were an earlier version of that, where instead of putting your hat on it and it just pulls it up, you'd actually capture on it, and then pull it out of the ground. I'm kinda glad they made it not a capture, just because it's a lot more efficient this way. Up next is Teresa. I am 99% sure I butchered that name. Anyway, it's the Boo, and I really wish Odyssey had a Boo capture. I feel like Odyssey is completely lacking in, like, spooky areas, aside from, like, Ruined Kingdom, but Ruined Kingdom doesn't really count for anything. But having a Boo capture would have been so cool. There's so much you could do with it, and it would just be really fun to control. It might be too similar to the winged Goomba, however, I really don't think that should deter from how amazing a Boo capture would have been. And now I'm gonna go rapid fire on a few testing objects that are literally labeled test. Test bird on. Don't know. Test clock tower. First thing that comes to mind is TikTok clock. Test Ando shooter. Could be pretty much anything. Test Ando wave. I'm guessing the two Andos are related to each other, but that's about all I can guess. Test killer machine bullet. The word killer usually refers to bullet bills. This was probably an early test for bullet bills or the bullet bill launcher. Test stick. Stick. And that's all for the quick test run. Up next is Tornado Hacked. Now, captures are referred to as hacks, as I mentioned before. Having a controllable tornado is an interesting idea. I'm guessing it was for Sand Kingdom. It could have been worked into pretty much any kingdom, I think. I'm not sure what it would have done, especially with it being controllable, but I think there's some interesting platforming and puzzles you could do there. Up next is Torpedo, and torpedoes are usually underwater bullet bills in Mario games, and I think an underwater bullet bill capture would be super sweet to have. I don't know too much about what it would have done, but it sounds like a fun idea. And finally, we're almost at the end of the list. Training Sakai enemy. Now this obviously just sounds like a test. There is someone credited in Odyssey as an environment programmer called Kento Saki, and I'm guessing that they were creating this capture as a test. That's about all I can guess. And finally, breaking the alphabetical nature we've had so far, hack map parts. Most map objects are labeled as map parts in Odyssey. Hack is captures. This was probably just a test for hacking things in general. And finally, we are done. Except, no, we're not done. I skipped over a lot of the captures that I had no idea what they could have been used for. So, rapid fire on things that if you want to do research into, I implore you. However, I have zero clue. Aram, Big Mouth, Bintaku, Bafun, Can, Catan, Buran, Grasshopper Robo, Gemi, Handlecar, Ekakun, Komachan, Karamado, Line Dancer, Ninjari, Oil Walker, Punch Machine, Roylo, Shielder, Shinobi, Stick Fighter, Super Restar, Swordon, Training Dysvali Enemy, Yoikon, and Xenocon. I'm sure I butchered so many of those names. I am sorry. And that is every unused capture in Odyssey. Only some of those were interesting, but I'm glad I got to talk about these. These are super fascinating. And if there's anything that I didn't have an idea on, that you have an idea on, or you want to expand on something I talked about, totally leave a comment. There's so much room for interpretation here, and maybe we'll find out what these things truly were with a future leak of Odyssey. It's hard to say. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good day. See ya!